What types of things did your son Corey like to do as a 6-year-old?
He liked reading, coloring, painting, playing outside.
And what type of demeanor did Corey have as a 6-year-old?
He was happy, silly, loving.
Brianna Mitello, the grieving mother of Corey Mitello, taking the stand to testify about her son.
So, guys, this is my mommy.
Prosecutors say that 6-year-old little boy was killed by his father, Christopher Greger.
You know, my heart just breaks for her. There's no words to even describe it.
A supporter of the Mitellos is here to talk about the trial so far. Thanks for joining me for Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Corey Mitello was just 6 years old when he died on April 2nd, 2021. Corey's father, Christopher Greger, faces a murder charge in his death along with a child endangerment charge. Brianna Mitello testified at Greger's trial about her little boy.
Who is Corey Mitello?
My son.
And when did you give birth to Corey?
May 1st, 2014.
And how old were you when you gave birth to Corey?
17.
And what grade were you in when you gave birth to Corey?
11th grade.
And who is Corey's biological father?
The defendant.
As you heard, Brianna Mitello was 17 when she gave birth to Corey. Testimony at trial revealed that Christopher Greger became a part of Corey's life when he was either 4 or 5 years old and became the parent that Corey lived with primarily, but Brianna Mitello had visitation. During the trial, testimony has revealed that when Christopher Greger took Corey Mitello to the hospital the day that he died, he mentioned that Brianna Mitello struggled with addiction.
What did the defendant say about the bruising?
He said the bruising was from Corey playing football and riding his bicycle.
What did the defendant say about Corey's mother?
That she was a drug addict.
What did the defendant say about contacting Corey's mother at that time?
He said that he did not want her contacted.
And what did the defendant say about Corey being at Jersey Shore Medical Center?
That his mom had him there the night before.
This is a Law&Crime legal alert. Google Incognito tracked users browsing data without their knowledge. Mass Tort Alliance, one of our legal sponsors, is helping users file for compensation because Google misled users about the privacy of its Incognito browser. If you've used Google Incognito anytime since 2016, you can start your claim by answering less than 10 questions. Just log on to incognitoclaims.com/crimefix. And Greger's mother testified at a hearing outside the presence of the jury that minutes after Corey died, Greger called his mother and cast blame for Corey's death on Brianna Mitello.
The next phone call I receive, Chris is hysterical. What did she do to him? He's screaming on the phone. And I'm like, what's going on? And he tells me Corey passed.
2 days before Corey died, Brianna Mitello had filed an emergency application for custody of Corey because she said she feared that Greger was abusing him.
Now, on April 1st of 2021, what time did you pick up Corey that day for visitation?
Around 4:30.
And after you picked up Corey, where did you take him?
To the pediatrician.
And what was the name of the pediatrician or the practice?
IV Pediatrics.
And what town was the pediatrician located in?
Toms River.
And when you picked up Corey that day, what was Corey's demeanor?
He was fine.
And when you picked up Corey that day, what was his physical condition?
He still had some bruises, but other than that, he was normal.
And when you got to the pediatrician's office, did Corey speak to the doctor?
Yes.
And was Corey examined by the doctor?
Yes.
And did you speak to the doctor?
I did.
Now, based upon this conversation, where did you take Corey next?
The Community Medical Center.
And where is Community Medical Center located?
I believe in Toms River.
And why did you take Corey to Community Medical Center in Toms River?
To be examined further, and he needed to get x-rays and blood work.
Okay. And while you were either at the pediatrician or on your way to community medical center, did you receive the family court order regarding your emergent application?
Yes.
That emergency application for custody was denied. The next morning, on April 2nd, testimony revealed that Mitello dropped her son off at Gregor's apartment at 9 a.m. Hours later, Christopher Gregor showed up at the hospital with Corey. He died a short time later. Gregor's defense team says that Corey died from sepsis.
Dr. Larkin found that Corey's blood results from Southern Ocean showed incredibly high white blood count, high glucose, and high lactic acid, and said that's all indicative of sepsis caused by an infection. The same sepsis that Jersey Shore Medical Center told Brianna Mitello, do not take this child from the hospital. He possibly has sepsis. We need to evaluate him.
But prosecutors say Gregor abused his son and beat him, causing those injuries that led to his death.
And based not only on the autopsy findings, but my review of the medical records, there's zero, not one scintilla of evidence of sepsis or any other infectious process in Corey's autopsy.
I want to bring in a friend and supporter of Brianna Mitello. She is Carrie-Ann McManus. Carrie-Ann, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, how did you come to know Brianna Mitello?
First of all, I just want to thank you for having me on. We appreciate you helping us get the story out of Corey. So I first met Bree when Corey died. The day that Corey died, April 2nd, I had come across a post on Facebook made by Bree. She was seeking help locating a vehicle, which was Christopher's vehicle. She had just learned of Corey's death, and she had no idea what was happening. She had no answers. So she just resorted to social media, made a post asking if anybody sees this car or this person to please contact the police. Being that the incident happened within walking distance of my home, I saw it and my heart just went out because I didn't know the full story. So I just reached out to Brittany and I said to her, I'm local. I live in Barnegat. I'm not sure what the story is, but if there's anything that I can do to help, I'll keep my eye out. Feel free to reach out to me. So from that point forward, I spoke to Bree on a daily basis, and we've become very close. I speak to her still on a daily basis, see her very frequently, and we just stay in touch. We've become very close friends.
You've been following Corey's case, as you said, since the day that he died. You've been at the trial. We've seen you in the gallery. How is Brianna holding up?
Yeah, my heart just breaks for her. There's no words to even describe it. She's on the outside. It may appear to you that she's doing okay, but she's not. It's been a very long, almost 3.5 years for her with no answers. She's still learning a lot of these details to this day. A lot of the stuff that is coming out in trial, she didn't know. So every day is a struggle to her.
What did she not know? Can you tell me? Is it just specific information or?
Specific information. She recently, especially the treadmill video, she was just shown that video right prior to trial starting. She kind of knew the story, like just hearing from the police and the affidavit of some details. But for her to just see that video just days before trial started, you're talking 3.5 years into this, and she's just seeing what happened to her son.
The treadmill video was recorded by a security camera at Christopher Gregor's apartment complex on March 20th, 2021. That was more than a week before Corey died. It's very difficult to watch. While it's been shown to the jury at Gregor's trial, prosecutors have not argued that it caused Corey's death. It shows Gregor speeding up the treadmill and Corey falling. Gregor then appears to bite Corey's head, and there are other things that Carrie Ann McManus says Brianna Mitello just learned of, related to the day that Corey died.
She just learned fairly recently that the clothes that were located in Christopher's garbage can in his kitchen were soiled with vomit and feces. Just little details like that. There's so much more that she's just learning. Again, the prosecution is unable to tell her everything. So all of this is just coming out, and it's been a very long process for her. I mean, I just can't imagine being in her shoes and losing my son in such a tragic way and having zero answers until we're sitting in a courtroom and hearing it for the first time. And another thing she's just learning for the first time is his extent of injuries that he's had. Yes, the medical examiner determined it was blunt force trauma to the abdomen and the chest, but we all just learned in court by the forensic pathologist that he had far more internal injuries than we even knew.
Forensic pathologist Dr. Thomas Andrew testified that Corey's death was caused by blunt impact injuries. He also said the injuries likely occurred around the same time.
Doctor, can you tell us about the additional evidence that you saw to find to that time frame?
So if you think about that time frame of 4 to 12 hours, that would have been from 5 a.m. the day before to 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 2nd. There was a video that was alluded to, and it wasn't an intentional video. There were no people in the video. You could basically see that the phone was on a car seat or something. And Attorney Lento, have folks seen this video? Do they know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So it appears as if the phone was like on the car seat or something. And it was represented to me that this was Corey's mother dropping him off for custodial care with his father. And they were having a conversation. Well, this was at about 9 o'clock. Corey was answering questions. He was conversational. He was normal. Audibly. So if that's at 9 o'clock, the period of time of injury from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, in my mind, is eliminated. A person with these injuries is not going to be responding like Corey would in the car. So that puts us between 9 a.m. and approximately 1 p.m. I can't narrow it down any more specifically than that, but I am confident that that is the range of time in which Corey was injured.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, the defense has suggested that Brianna Mitello is actually responsible for Corey's death.
This is one thing that's really killing Bri. She's seeing all these videos floating around online of these accusations, and it's breaking her heart because she has been nothing but a loving and caring mother to Corey. She did everything by the book, and that's another thing. Floating all around online, people are saying she should be held responsible, which really breaks all of our hearts because she did everything by the book. She did everything that DCP&P told her to do. She did everything that law enforcement told her to do. She made countless calls to DCP&P. She begged and she pleaded for help, and everybody just ignored her. DCP&P would come out and do their investigation, and everything would go unfounded. And now we have our thoughts of why, typically an abuser is not going to abuse their child in front of a social worker, a DCP&P worker. So it's hard to come to a conclusion that those accusations are actually happening. But there's so many things to debunk all these theories that are out there. So that call that Chris made to DCP&P that morning, right after Bree dropped Corey off to Chris, he makes this phone call to DCP&P and states that Corey's mom is coaching him to lie and say that Chris hit him. Now, going back, it's been brought out in trial that it's being said that Chris told the emergency room when he took Corey to the emergency room that Corey was dropped off feeling loopy, lethargic, not feeling well, all his claims that he's stating, which can be debunked by the accidental video that Bree has, where you can verbally hear Corey in the back seat of her car verbalizing and having a conversation with her. He was alert. He was oriented. He was awake. He was fine, other than physically all the bruising that was on his body. He was perfectly fine. I mean, yes, was he probably tired? Absolutely. She had him, he was out at the hospital till 1 o'clock in the morning. So any normal 6-year-old is going to be tired, and then showing up at his father's house at 9 a.m. And that phone call to DCP&P, not once in that phone call did he ever make a statement saying that my son was dropped off. He's complaining he's not feeling well, having a hard time breathing, his legs hurt, he's loopy, he's lethargic, not once. And on top of that, we even have a person that lives in that apartment complex that visibly saw Corey that morning. And she stated that Corey was perfectly fine. He was outside, he was walking his dog, and there was no signs of him not feeling well and just not being well in general. So very easy to debunk those theories,
Brianna Mitello dropped Corey off at his father's house at 9 a.m. on April 2nd. It was Good Friday, and Corey was off school that day. As you heard in his trial testimony revealed, Mitello had taken Corey to the hospital the day prior, on April 1st.
She took him to Community Medical Center in Toms River, New Jersey, to be evaluated for all these bruising and all these cuts all over Corey's body. They wanted her to have Corey transferred to Jersey Shore Medical Center, because the reason for this is because they do have a child abuse expert in that hospital. So they were trying to get her to have Corey transported via ambulance, only because it was protocol. That's protocol. It's so if something were to happen, let's just say Corey did have some kind of internal bleeding going on or anything, that they can't be held reliable if something happens to Corey, if she were to drive him to the hospital. So never once were they holding her in the hospital and telling her, you have to send him via ambulance. They were just going over their protocol and explaining to her that this paper that she was going to be signing was just signing off that she understands that they're not held reliable if something happens to Corey within the period of her leaving community and going to Jersey Shore. So she opted to drive him because, one, it was said that her driving him would be a much quicker type scenario versus being transported in an ambulance. And the doctor said to her, his blood work was fine. He had no signs of sepsis. They were not concerned about anything life-threatening. They just wanted him to go to Jersey Shore to be evaluated by a child abuse doctor, I guess. So she opted to do that. And another reason why she opted to do that was because Corey was due to be back in Chris's care. And she was already running late on time. And Chris, at that moment, was sitting there verbally abusing Brianna via text message. So she opted to drive him to try and make the process quicker so she can get Corey back to Chris quicker. Unfortunately, when she got to Jersey Shore, he was there for quite a long time. They did extensive testing. Everything came back normal other than all the bruising, the abrasions on his body. So come 1 o'clock, when they were finally discharged from the hospital, Bree was trying to contact Chris. And she said to him, we're done at the hospital. Can I please come drop Corey off to you for, your visitation? And Chris wasn't answering. Chris was not responding. So the only option that Bree had was to take Corey back home with her. So that's what she did. She said he fell asleep in the car. First thing she did with him was bring him inside, put him to bed. They woke up the next morning. Corey was his normal, energetic self. Yes, he was a little tired from being up late. He ate breakfast, went about his normal morning routine, got in the car, and Bree drove him to Chris's house for his visitation. And that was the last time she saw her son.
You've been friends with her this entire time. There's been a lot of discussion in the trial that she struggled with substance abuse. I mean, Christopher Gregor, according to the ER nurse, said she his mom's a drug addict or something like that. So there are things that he was saying in the emergency room to kind of throw some shade at her. How is she doing with that? And is she clean still? I mean, has she been able to deal with these issues and move past them?
Yeah. Proud to say that she is 100% clean. She's been clean for quite a long time. And it's amazing. It's an amazing transformation she's made. She since has brought in a little girl into this world. Beautiful, beautiful little girl. She loves her to death just as much as she loved Corey. And she's made it a point to bring Corey's story into her daughter's life. She wants her to know Corey and who he was, and eventually what happened. She wants her to know who Corey was and have him be a part of her life, even though he's no longer here. But she's doing wonderfully with her sobriety. Absolutely wonderful. I mean, and it's surprising because with all the trauma and the stress she has dealt with this whole situation, she has held unbelievably strong. And I couldn't be any more proud of her.
Brianna Mitello's daughter is one. Testimony in the trial resumes this week with witnesses for Christopher Gregor's defense testifying. That's it for this edition of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. We'll see you back here next time.